And when Dermot's been speaking around the organising committee, he's failed to mention himself, I think, alongside the committee for all the work that's happened. So, Dermot, thanks a million, you know. So welcome to our annual conference, bringing together over 200 people from the north of Ireland and the Republic of Ireland, over 37 services, soon to become 38 with Rose's Place kicking off in the next couple of weeks. And I was trying to kind of work out who's come the furthest today and who got up the earliest. So maybe put that onto the Slido as well. You know, what time you got up this morning, because there's people who actually travel from Derry today, and I presume from Cork as well. Like, you know, so from the most northern parts of the country right down to the furthest south, and that kind of gives a real kind of appreciation of the breadth and the national presence that DePaul now has as a national and cross-border organisation, which is at the forefront of dealing with some of the most difficult kind of situations in this country. And the recent launch of our annual impact report shows how critical and important our work has become. And those for you who are lucky enough to be at the impact report launch and seeing it online will see the incredible work that all of you have been involved in 22, but also in 23 as well. You know, we are now, as I say, running 37, soon to be 38 services, and they are the most specialised services in the country, dealing with the greatest complexities and the people who are most marginalised. We worked with over 7,500 people last year, and that huge kind of jump was attributable to not only our increased presence within dealing with homelessness services, but also as well our move into working with the migrant and asylum population, particularly with the in-reach services going into the hotels, which has been pretty critical in supporting those people landing in a strange country. We had really, and this is a really stark kind of statistic, you know, and outlines the work that you're facing every day, but we had 220 naloxone administrations. You know, the fact that we have one is hugely challenging. But that life-saving kind of intervention, I think, underlines on what we've been trying to communicate, I suppose, to the general public, has been the worth of our staff in being able to intervene in such a way, and your professionalism and dignity. But also as well the complex situation that our service users are experiencing on the ground, and the challenges that they face in homelessness and homeless services as well. The most important statistic, I think, has been the 449 people that we've moved out of homelessness, both north and south. And that is the essence of what we're about. We're here to end homelessness, and we're here to be able to work with people, and we'll talk more about that as the morning goes on, both within the executive team's plan, but the wider strategy that we have. And we've got really a really positive panel this morning. We've got Helen O'Shea, who's come from DePaul International. We hopefully will have Rory Hearn later on as well. And John Murphy here as well, our chair, who's led the trustees with extreme discipline and fortitude as well. We've created a culture in DePaul which is brave, innovative, and at the forefront and cutting edge of some of Ireland's greatest problems. And we continue to come up with responses in the last couple of months that have been significant. And what I was really, really happy about was the voice, and we have our peer advocates here this morning as well. The voice of our service users really came to the forefront through our media messages, and to the extent that we had a woman's voice in The Independent last week from Spire, talking about her experience in trying to emerge from huge complexities. We have now the Rose's Place about to kick off, which don't underestimate the significance of what this is about. We've been campaigning for this ourselves for about 4 years, and we'll be the first accommodation-based unit for victims of trafficking and female victims of trafficking. And our state, our government have been criticised consistently for not providing that, and DePaul will be the first organisation that provides that as part of the national mechanism framework for victims of trafficking as well. And Dermot is centrally involved in a piece of work and research around that in over 4 cities, where New York, Dublin, London and Paris, where we've done a survey and around the presence of services of this nature. And can everybody turn their phones off? Yeah, please, if you don't mind. The last couple of weeks saw the unveiling of an incredible mural outside of Stella Maris in Belfast. And if you get a chance, if you're up in Belfast, go and see it. It was co-designed by our service users in Stella, and it's actually made of ceramics. It's incredible. Go on the hub and you will actually see it. Hugely kind of impressive. The continued growth of DePaul housing, and we now have our 3rd employee, Sean O'Sullivan, who's going to be working. Where's Sean? I was slagging him this morning. He should have a number 3 on his back. But Sean has just joined the team, and we go from strength to strength with DePaul housing, led by Alan Dodsley, and Folasade probably is here this morning as well, hopefully. The refurbishment of the bathrooms in Cork, again, has been pretty transformational in St Vincent's. A huge piece of work has gone into that, and that has been transformational in that particular hostel. And the saving of 3 lives on the streets in Derry that was focused on BBC Spotlight in the last couple of weeks. It's just a really, really kind of small indication of the work that goes on. And that list could go on and on and on across all of our services about what actually has been achieved by this organisation. And it kind of, I think, highlights the huge kind of complexity and range of the work that we do. But let's be honest, we have our challenges as well. And that those of you who have attended the CEO brief during the year realise the efforts that DePaul have been putting into obtaining the additional funding from the state to put directly into terms and conditions of staff. Myself and the executive team have been at the centre of advocacy issues. I signed off a letter this morning going to Leo Varadkar on the need in order to be able to intervene in the industrial dispute that is happening nationally. And we've been at the centre of trying to secure additional funding from the state to put into terms and conditions of staff. But what is needed is to encourage government to move in this area in a structural way. And that applies not only in the Republic of Ireland, but also as well north of the border. Our voice was really loud to prevent the Supporting People Fund being cut earlier this year as well. We ourselves put great hope into the recent WRC process, and were hugely disappointed when government didn't respond adequately to those negotiations at the end of July. Industrial action was always going to be a risk, and we share the frustration of many of you. And our frustrations go forward around our own funding situation. We have yet to obtain an indication of our final budget from Dublin Regional Homes Executive, and an earlier promise of an additional 3% from the HSE has not yet materialised. This has meant that we haven't been able to know fully what our budgets are, and therefore know what we could pass on in improvements in terms of conditions. We hope to know what this final position from DRHE will be in coming days, but this has been incredibly inhibiting for DePaul and our sector. And our frustrations extend to Northern Ireland, where the lack of government continues to undermine and weaken our work and make a case for a sustainable NGO sector. So, of course, we regret that the situation has reached this point where industrial dispute will occur. but we share the objectives of the ICTU, the Irish Congress of Trade Unions, that a significant uplift in statutory funding is required for us to keep pace with public services and deal with the cost of living crisis, and that a mechanism must be found to link the public service pay awards with the NGO sector. In all of our discussions with SIP2, the welfare of our service users has been at the forefront of our discussions, and we've had very strong communication with SIP2, and we hope to meet very soon to discuss what the impact will be of the industrial action, which has been taken not only by DePaul but 5,000 workers in 30 organisations across the country. We value our relationship with all our employees and the critical work that you do to support the most vulnerable in our society, and we will continue to advocate at all levels of government for increased funding. The only way to secure a lasting resolution to the issues at the heart of this dispute will be to obtain that funding. But look, what we'll do, we'll continue to communicate with yourselves over the next couple of weeks around what the impact will be, and really hope for a speedy resolution, which lies with government. The wider NGO sector in homelessness has its challenges as well. The need to respond to our housing crisis because of its extent can feel at times overwhelming. And because you've been successful in your work and the quality of our services is high, people turn to DePaul. But believe me, we've turned away more work opportunities than we've accepted in the last year. So we are really taking a really considered approach to what we do and how we do it. And because of our services and the quality of our services is so high, people are turning to us. But that response needs to be marshalled and controlled. As I say, we've turned away more opportunities than we've accepted in the last year. And we are very conscious that any further growth needs to take into account our resources, the ability to pay our staff at levels that we would like, and internal structures that supports our ability to deliver. The executive team, led by our trustees, are very carefully considering every step we take to ensure that the capacity and the finances exist within the organisation to respond. The sustainability of our services and our housing and the well-being of our service users is our central concern, and governance is at the heart of everything that we do. And our own values and public trust is everything, and our decision-making is informed by these values and principles. There are fundamental issues that need to be considered by government for the whole NGO sector for it to build its capacity to respond to the huge challenges that society faces. Government needs to be clear about what role they want us to take, and essentially, if they want us to take this role, we need the resources and to have the infrastructure to be able to deliver. But look, our frustrations are considerable, and yet you and we work tirelessly to be able to end homelessness on this island through our three principles: our low threshold approach, the specialisation of our services, and being housing led. So today sees the launch of our official consultation on our strategy, The Path Home. And it's not any kind of a coincidence that today's conference is entitled Towards the Path Home, because the existing strategy has been hugely beneficial and supportive to us to be able to deal with our issues and to fulfil our vision, mission and values as well. And what I want to do is now just to talk in terms of, well, from my perspective, what's important to me. The executive team will talk specifically around how they see their work materialising over the next couple of years. But what you will have is an opportunity towards the end of the year and into the beginning of next year to feed into that strategy and to be able to have your voice heard. And everybody will have an opportunity to have their voice heard in where we go, both with your individual services, but also as well with the wider organisation. And this is not any sort of order, or it's not any sort of level of importance, but I suppose there are probably issues that are important for me to be seen in the new iteration of our strategy going forward. So on Glormore, we've finally given a name to our Service User Advocacy Forum. It's the big voice, and that's the name of it. And that's been developed through the peer advocates, the health peer advocates. And it's been hugely, I think, positive, step in being able to get this together. And the big voice is around encouraging and supporting our service users to have a wider voice in the governance and the running of the organisation as well. This year saw them meet at the Trustee Strategy Day, the trustees, and is probably one of the most impactful pieces of interaction and intervention that we've had in Nepal for a couple of years, and had a huge impact on our service users. But in the new iteration of the strategy, both north and south of the border, we plan to strengthen that initiative that's started its momentum during the last couple of years. So, 37 services, 38 services that are over our 5 pillars. Each one with a huge set of unique characteristics, but yet follow the culture and vision, mission, values of the Nepal. But what we want to do is to be able, over the next couple of years, is get into a wider vision for each of the services that we run. And those 38 services are in different parts of the country. They're north and south. Some of them deal with different cohorts of people from homelessness, young people, people with complex needs, people from a migrant background. But the vision of how those services develop over the next couple of years are hugely important. So we want to move to a planning process where, let's take two examples. Let's take the services in Cork, St Vincent's and Deer Park. We want to be able to analyse how they fit into, from a regional perspective, of the service continuum within a Cork situation, and how those services can be enhanced in order to be able to strengthen our presence in the area, alongside how housing is developed in that particular area as well. Another example is Spire. We want to have a really kind of clear vision, and a lot of work has happened over the last couple of months in order to be able to improve the service in Spire. But we want to have a longer term vision of where we go with Spire, because we know that we're not happy with fully. The service is incredible, but we want to be able to move away from a shared approach to service users, and I think Spire is a good example of what way we'd like to come up with a longer term plan on that. So each service will have its plan, and you have your service delivery plans that Dermot and the team lead on, but we'll have a wider kind of approach and vision to that kind of going forward. Our people. I've spoken a lot around the focus of you as workers and volunteers, and our service users as well. And our central focus will continue to be on how the working experience improves and can continue. Our learning and development strategy is considerable and huge. Our ability to be able to communicate with you. Events like this morning are essential for us to remain an organisation that's transparent and communicates. And the whole issue in terms of pay and conditions in the current environment will be a central focus and core focus going forward. We've begun work around the whole impact of climate change, and also as well how well we marshal our resources and fit into the whole kind of carbon neutral agenda, because this is coming down the rails for us considerably. So we will look at this from an individual service point of view. It's important from a cost of living point of view, but also as well how responsible we are as an organisation around our sustainable goals. But also as well, our environment as well is hugely important from a service user point of view in the type and nature of services that we provide as well. Community and housing. So in Northern Ireland, we probably are really, I suppose, at the forefront of the delivery of community-based services. We see this as a really strong future for the organisation. Going back to kind of being able to talk and think about the future of our services, we need to think about our communities. We need to think about the fact that in the next couple of years, 29,000 units will be built, 30,000 units per year. New communities will be springing up all over the place. How are people with complex needs and the people that we work with and people coming from new communities going to be incorporated into this huge building programme? And in the north as well, in terms of the development of communities. So our role in the prevention of homelessness for the most marginalised is a key agenda and priority for us going forward. And our international role. Helen O'Shea, Chair of the Paul International, is here this morning. I know and we know how important our international link is for all of us. And we will be seeking and looking at ways in which that can be strengthened. Going back to the theme of our environment, we cannot ignore the fact that climate change will have a major impact on the movement of people in the next couple of years. And Ireland is not isolated from that. So therefore, our link around homelessness on a wider international basis will become more important for us. And it's hugely important that we continue that link, and we're delighted that Helen's here today to address you on her vision of that going forward. So it's not an exhaustive list, but it's an important list, and it's a beginning of a conversation that you all and must be part of. This iteration will see us be stronger in measuring and evaluating our impact. And what we will do is we will set targets to increase the amount of people that we move on from our accommodation-based services. So 500 people this year. We're going to be setting goals for that to be reached and exceeded next year. And we will set targets over the next 3 years for that to occur, because that is our end goal. We will measure the amount of people that we are preventing from coming into homelessness. And the development of our community services will be the method by which we will do that. We will set really clear goals for the development of our housing on a year-by-year basis. And conceivably, by the end of the year, we could have exceeding 100 units with what's coming down the pipeline. And we will set ambitious targets for that as well. And one of the targets that we'll set for ourselves as well is to try to work to prevent people coming back into our services. And yes, we haven't got full control over that, but that will be something that we will measure and keep an eye on as well. So, in conclusion, I don't need to condescend you with telling you how important your work is. You see this and experience it every day. But the reason why the Paul has grown to its size has not been down to naked ambition. It's because the values and desire for a just Ireland for those people we work with is in the fabric of everything you do. And this island needs that strength for all of its challenges and its people who are marginalised in the coming years. And I hope you feel connected to this. And thank you from the bottom of my heart for all that you do. So thank you.